Hi, I'm Dave O'Neill, head coach for Texas Rowing. You're watching Third and Longhorn. Make sure you like and subscribe, and welcome.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another special edition of Third and Longhorn. Today, we have a three-time national champion, wait for it, at Texas, and five-time national champion in his coaching career, and the current national championship coach, Mr. Dave O'Neill.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, it's good to be here.
Coach, we're excited to have you on this, and we start all these off the same way, but I think you've got a really cool journey story. So, talk about how you got to Texas, but just kind of, if you would, take us through your coaching story or just your life story, how you got here.
Well, I was born in Salem, Massachusetts, but came to Texas. I was coaching at Cal, UC Berkeley for a long time, was there for 16 years, had some good success. Nice. But I don't know if you follow along. You guys follow along with college athletics. Cal, it's there's always there's never any resources at Cal to do things. So it was really successful at Cal, but we were kicking butt. But always, I remember talking to my athletic director at one point and saying like, "Hey, so what's the goal for the my end of the year? And like, what do you see for us next year?" It's like, "Oh, if you can be top 10. That'd be great." I'm like, top 10, like we've been top 3 the last 8 years. And
he just had no clue.
Well, they understood, but it was like, hey, let's not get too ambitious type of thing.
Gosh.
And, so then when the job opened up at Texas, and I remember being in some meeting about something, and I was next to the men's coach, and he was kind of a legend in the rowing world. And looked, bored in this meeting, pull up my phone and noticed that Coach Kerry Graves was, retiring. And I show him, and he's like, "You going to Texas?" I'm like, "Hook 'em horns, man." So then I guess it might have been a little bit of a midlife crisis at the time, but it doesn't get bigger than Texas, And I heard through the grapevine that they wanted to get good at rowing, so let them know I was interested, and it's been great. It's been great.
What was that process like, from what you can share?
Reached back, so this is at the 2014 NCAA Championships. Kathy Harston, who's now my supervisor, Kathy, love you. She was there, and I met her for the first time. And then our team, our Cal team finished second, national runner-up. Next morning, I emailed Kathy, "Hey, it was nice to meet you, and here's my deal. I'm interested if you'd be interested in talking." And then, by that afternoon, was trading emails, and then probably, I think the next weekend was in a hotel lobby conference room with Chris Plonsky, talking with her, and then I came and interviewed, and a couple weeks later accepted the job.
Bada bing, bada boom.
Yeah. But it was one of those things where at Cal, like there was one of the things where like I couldn't get a light bulb changed in the facility if something was wrong. Talking to CP, and within like 3 minutes she's saying, "Hey, there's a lake east of campus, that we'd love to build a race course on." I'm like, "Wait, you want to build a race course at this place?" Like, "Yeah, we think we can do." Like, holy moly! Like, okay, you guys are serious.
Yeah.
So, like it's different at Texas, and it's been great. It's been great.
In terms of the rowing culture here in Texas, and you've obviously done a great job of building that rowing culture compared to the powerhouses. Like, or what are the powerhouses in rowing? Are we a powerhouse in rowing?
Yeah, we're the powerhouse now. Yeah, we are.
So in terms of us compared to us.
Yes, compared to us. Who threatens
a lot of people think it's like the East Coast Ivy League.
That's what I would have.
But that's changed in the last 20 years or so. Although Princeton, Yale, there's Princeton, Brown, Yale, they're still really good. But Texas, we've done really great. Ohio State is actually, in the last 10 years, they've won 3 NCAA championships. And then the traditional powers, Cal has always been really good, and University of Washington. It's been good. But in the last 20 years, like rowing has really grown. Title IX has been enormous for us.
Right.
And there's been a lot of those big time football schools with Title IX recognize, hey, we need a sport that has big numbers that can help offset football. Yeah. So back in the 90s, you had Texas, USC, Michigan State, and now Tennessee, Oklahoma Alabama have all added rowing. And so now it's become more across the country. So the powerhouses, top 3 at this year's NCAA Championship: Texas, Stanford, Tennessee, which I think important to point out. Well, also the top 3 in the Directors Cup. So rowing being pretty important for the bigger picture too.
I like that.
So Coach, and excuse my, I guess I wouldn't know this. I don't know if y'all know this either. How many athletes make up a rowing team?
Yeah, great question. Great question. So our roster is in the springtime is usually around 60 to 70 people.
Okay.
About 70 women on our team. We'll have a tryout portion in the fall where it might be up to 90 to 100 people. And then it gets cut down to 70. And then our travel squad, there's within the rowing team, there's plenty of teams within the teams. Okay. So the first 8, the varsity 8, that's the priority boat, and then there's the second 8, and then a 4. So when we go to the NCAA championships, there's 3 events. There's 20 rowers and 3 coxswains. The coxswains are the little ones that are yelling. So there's 20 athletes that race at the NCAA championship. But then there's the reserve squads that development squad that keep people come along, and we find races for them during the year. But just as a football team, 100, 120 guys, and only a certain number are actually going to hit the field. Similar with us.
Well, Coach, how does that? I wondered this because we all obviously follow football shows mainly about football, and the recruiting world in football is so extensive, right? Like there's sites, there's videos, there's there's a large amount of information out there about recruiting. And how does that work in rowing? Are there sites that kind of do that help, or is it a lot of word of mouth, or are you out on campus like, hey, is it?
Yeah. Good question. There aren't any rowing sites at the moment.
Okay.
There are some recruiting services that'll help. Like, hey, every day I'm getting an email from some recruiting service. Hey, this German kid who's so-and-so tall. But just as with football, like we develop relationships with all the junior coaches and the club coaches. And for rowing, it's not just in Texas, it's globally. So for us, we're recruiting the best kids from Australia, the best kids from Germany. From all over the world. And I think with football, I'm sure, they're like, hey, what's the stats? Height, weight. For us, we can go down the line like, height, weight, the 2,000 meter erg score, the Concept 2 rowing machine. That's sort of the SAT of rowing, how fast someone goes on that.
What? Okay, I'm sorry. What's considered?
I would like that.
What's considered? I'm interested because, like, from a competitive standpoint, we have a couple of Concept 2 rowers in our facilities. Yeah. What's considered good, better, best there?
Okay. On our team, sub 7 minutes is good.
Okay.
Sub 650 is really good. Sub 640 is great. So in the CrossFit world, they'll say like, hey, go sub 7 minutes for guys. Like 7 minutes. We had probably 18 women on our team go sub 7 minutes.
Yeah.
Which is,
no, that's amazing.
That's what world class.
World class now start talking like sub 640. 645 to sub 640.
Wow.
Okay.
So they get pretty fit.
So
so you guys get on the machine and see what you can do.
I know that's tough because like we'll do certain workouts where we're doing like 1,500 meters and we're around some of those same times. So to know that there's still a back end of 500 meters left.
Oh yeah. And these are women doing it too.
Yeah.
Okay, so Coach, let me know if I'm off here because I've got a chance to watch some rowing events just in my life, and one of the things I love about it, but like all team sports, it seems like everybody's got to be on the same page. The rhythm of it is kind of mind blowing because I don't see anybody being off. It's almost like the synchronized swimming.
Yeah.
How much detail and attention is spent on the coordination. The rhythm.
It's everything.
Is that everything? Is that
get everyone in sync. The same. Not just the timing of the drive, when they put the oars in the water, they're powering the boat, but also on the recovery when they're flowing along. And that's where it's not always the strongest people get in the boat. It's the people that can row and flow and make everyone else better.
Gotcha.
So there's plenty of people that they're not really strong, but they can get in the boat and it just feels good when they're in there. And that gets into the art of rowing, not just the straight up power.
What's the sound you yell? Because I heard you on the Longhorn Network piece. What is it?
There's a few different things, but they help with the rhythm, like whether it's like catch when the blade's going in the water, it's to catch, and then sha or send. There's a lot of sha. Just help with the rhythm, like because we talk quick rowing on our team. You get the speed at the catch with the blades in, that big push with the legs, and then the rhythm. We can send the boat with the arms. There's like sha. We set the arms. Send the boat.
So does everybody make that noise, or just you?
No, just me or the coxswain is in there too.
Okay, I gotcha.
So they're
only the coxswain is speaking.
Yeah, but within our team, there's a lot of hype within our team. So there's a lot of like back and forth yelling within the group too, which there's some teams like no talking in the boat, but I'm like, nope, go for it. Yeah. As long as it's positive. It's not like they're hyping each other up. It's good.
That is so cool.
Yeah.
Man,
that is so cool.
I'm learning so much right now. What's a great attribute for a football player? If somebody said, "Man, that person's he can run really fast.
Wingspan.
We can put him somewhere." What's something you look for when you're recruiting? Attribute of athlete where you say
well, football, like I'm sure there's a range of body types, right? Xavier Worthy versus Andre Sweat, like they're different body types. Rowers, there's basically two body types. There's the women for us somewhere between 5'10" and 6'2" in terms of height, and then people that have a good combination of fast twitch and slow twitch muscles. Like rowing is very much an aerobic endurance sport, but they also have to have good peak power.
Right.
And there's some kids that don't have explosive power, but then go for a long time.
Yeah.
Well,
so just as I'd say, like in football, I guess the dudes who are really good, tight ends would probably be the best rowers. And then the other body type, we have the really small women, the coxswains. We say like they're the cerebral athletes. They're the sort of the jock, horse racing. They're the jockeys.
So is it this special blend or combination, without giving away your secret sauce, which has obviously worked, but is it a special blend of like, how many are peak power focused versus how many are endurance focused to carry us when we get to this point?
Good question. I'm always like, it's easier to take someone who has peak power and give them endurance rather than someone who's an endurance athlete and try to get them some power. I kind of think like if in track and field, if you have like a little 10K runner or marathon runner, they're not going to be
sprinter.
But take someone like a shot putter, now like take her and let's give her some endurance, and that person could become a good rower.
Got it.
No, but then there's also the mindset of things too, because rowing, there's a lot of suffering involved. So there's plenty of people that might not have the right physicality, but they're just killers and they're super tough.
Like
and
mentally.
I was saying about track, like cross countries like that. Yeah. It's just pain management, being able to deal with the pain of it, because you're in pain for most of the damn time.
So dealing with the pain, that's huge. And rowing is, I say this a lot, rowing is the only sport like that where size is beneficial. All those endurance sports, whether it's running or cross-country skiing or cycling, they're just tiny people. But rowing, being above average in size, but you being really tough and you can, have some aerobic endurance, you can do well.
It sounds like data science is really important to you guys. I mean, it's important in every sport. We actually had a data scientist on with us not too long ago, so it's starting to become obviously an emerging industry in all sports. It seems like you're driving some terms, that are really, obviously data scientist type terms. How important is it?
Yeah, we're certainly aware of all the biomechanics and the training and whether it's the millimoles of lactate or heart rate zones and everything. But I always say there's two types of coaches. And certainly in rowing, there's two types of coaches. There's the scientist coach, where it's all about the physics and the training plan, and the mechanics of it all. And then there's the artist coach, where it's all about the team culture, the power of the human spirit, the flow, the beauty of the sport. I understand the science, I believe in the science, but I'm definitely more of an artist coach.
I was about to say, if I had to bet some money, I can feel it. I can genuinely feel the passion.
Yeah, because I often say, like, the reason why we're good, like I think the training that we do makes a lot of sense. The technique and the skill is really good, but what matters is the human factor.
Right.
That's the stuff that really matters.
So what played into that mindset? When did that part click for you? If you had to like pick one or two routes, like in your coaching career, when did you know this is the way? This is 1A. This is 1B.
Yeah. No, I've just always just done what I've done. You be you. Like I'm like this is what There was. Been to plenty of coaching conferences, and they're always up like, here's your training. You have to have your training plan to have it all figured out and keep record of everything and all. Like it's like, okay, I'm trying to do that. Like here's the mesocycle and the microcycle.
There you go.
Planning all of it, and then one of my first years here, I went to swim practice with Eddie Reese.
Okay.
It was great. And Eddie's a great guy. And I was like, so Eddie, like, how far are they going to swim today? How many meters are going to swim? He's like, we don't do meters, we do yards. I'm like, how many yards are they going to swim? He's like, I don't know. All right, well, do you keep track of like, this intensity and this, or from year to year, the big training volumes? Like, nope, it's all up here. I'm like, I love you. Yeah. You are speaking my language. Yeah. So, but there's some coaches that are very, very, very meticulous and have it. But I'm like, sometimes like driving to the boathouse in the morning, like, what feels right today? Wow. Like this is a workout that feels right today.
Mindset-wise, Coach, other sports, do you watch and maybe admire other coaches, and can it relate to you and the mindset to give your athletes some inspiration and motivation?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Okay. Yeah, I'm a huge sports fan, a huge football fan. Nice. Learning a ton from Sark. Like I said, with Eddie Reese, I tell the team always hears me telling these stories about Nick Saban and everything. So absolutely. So I'm taking things from everything all the time.
It seems like the coaches are pretty tight. We had Coach Schaefer on, and Coach Schaefer was talking about how he has conversations with some of the other coaches, and you just talked about hanging out with Eddie Reese and learning. The coaches from other sports in the athletic department for Texas, are they tighter than some of the other places you've been?
Yes, it's been good. Like we have this WhatsApp text thread, for the coaches and like everyone.
This is the second time that this has been referenced.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a good group, and there's
who texts the most on there? Who's
I think Jarrett is kind of like the grandfather.
He's the one that told us about it.
Jarrett's kind of the mayor.
He's good. That guy is a prolific texter. He is unbelievable.
Yeah, he's kind of the mayor of the coaching.
That is hilarious.
That's surprising.
Well, Coach, I heard you say something in your Longhorn Network interview that was fascinating to me. You're like, I'm not out here kind of game planning about how we're going to beat so-and-so about this team or that team. And it's more about what we do. And how do you take that, and is it more racing against the clock, or how do you build that championship mentality in a sport like that where you're not really motivated to like, let's go kick so-and-so's butt kind of?
Well, we are very motivated to win for sure.
Of course.
We're very, very motivated. But rowing, different than football or basketball, there's no defense. Like no one can determine what we're doing as long as we do our thing.
Right.
So it's that mindset, like let's do our thing, and like what do we have to do to go as fast as we can over the race distance, 2,000 meters. And basically, and we kind of want other teams to be thinking like the night before, strategizing, what do we have to do to beat Texas?
Right.
Yeah.
And we're just like, what does Texas have to do? We talk about like, it's about us. It's not about beating another team. It's about us. And we want them thinking what they're trying to do to beat us. So then we are like, and we're always talking like, use the competition to bring out the best in ourselves. So if you're ever on a bike ride or running and like, hey, these people are running pretty fast, like they're like, man, I'm going to run a little faster because they got it going. Or in the weight room, you see someone else lifting, like, damn, I guess I got to add some weight here. So the same thing. So we're not just in a bubble. We definitely notice what's happening. Like, okay, using that competition to make ourselves go harder and faster.
Has the modern era of college sports affected rowing at all? Transfer portal, NIL, has it affected rowing yet?
Good question. We've always had transfers. Okay. And we've all teams that I've coached have always done well with kids coming in wanting to be part of our team. And I think now, and we've never had you'd have to sit out 1 year. Although there was one case we had, one school said, no, you can't transfer there, but that's another story. but since it's more prolific and more well known, it's happening a little bit more. The NIL stuff, no, in terms of like the collectives, what you guys do is great, but it hasn't hit rowing that much. We have with the Texas One Fund, and really appreciative, some kids will do some things on and off, but there hasn't been the kids saying, hey, what's my deal?
Right.
And that's been helpful. And I think good that like for those funds coming in to go toward, whether it's football or basketball, I think that's where it should be going anyways.
Well, speaking towards a change in landscape of things, we're moving to the SEC.
Yeah.
What does our near future look like from a rowing perspective?
That's a great question.
Tennessee has a team, right?
Tennessee now has a team. Tennessee now has a good team. They've invested in rowing, and they're going to be good. So the four schools in the SEC: Texas, Oklahoma, SEC, Alabama. Mm-hmm. There's still discussions within the SEC about having a conference championship.
Okay.
From what I've heard, Commissioner Sankey, he's very supportive of rowing, and there was discussion about some other teams, some like affiliate members coming in to make it for us in rowing, you have to have 6 teams for it to be an AQ for an automatic qualifier. But we're like, hey, you win the SEC. We don't need other teams to come in to make it, diminish the brand. You win you're the top team in the SEC. You're going to go to the NCAA championships, and we're not worried about that. So there's still some uncertainty of what's going to happen. So that'll get sorted out in the next year. Well, but for rowing, we're going to be fine because our conference schedule, most rowing programs and conferences don't have a set regular season schedule. We travel all over the country, and that's not going to affect our. It won't affect our regular season at all. It might affect what's going to happen for a conference championship, but we'll get that worked out.
Coach, I'm fascinated. I know they obviously built this brand new, beautiful facility. I've been in the men's basketball side and I've been in the women's basketball side, but I have not been in the rowing side of that. And I wanted to know obviously there's going to be rowing machines in there, but what does training look like? What does that facility look like for the indoor part of it? Obviously you guys do Town Lake or Lady Bird Lake but like, what does it look like inside that actual facility?
Yeah, you should come on by. It's kind of, it's not a huge space, but everyone's like, hey, we've done a really good job with the space we had. So when we got notified of that, it's been a game changer. So there's a room where we call it the erg room, where we set up whether it's the rowing machines or the bikes, the workout area, which is a typical just empty space that we pull the machines on out and do whatever. And then there's the team has a locker room in there, and that's been a game changer. And then a lounge, and then our offices are in there. So it's got a little bit of a museum quality to it with some, just whether it's photos or other artifacts.
Yeah. Is there a weight side of it?
No, so we still lift at NEZ. We still lift down in B2, and that's fine. We lift twice a week, and that it's all good.
How much of like training is in the facility versus in the water?
Good question. Every morning we're on the water. Every afternoon we're on land.
Oh, so it's
we're double days. Yeah, we're double days. It's double days all year long. Like rowing,
it's all year long.
During the season, this is how it works too. Like,
oh yeah, like rowing, and for some reason rowing has like the NCAA.
That is a lot of work.
Yeah, the NCAA had like the number of practice days. For some reason rowing has the most practice days of any sport. We have 156 practice days. I think a lot of sports are 144. So we have 156 practice days, and we could have the 20-hour weeks. But yeah, we make use of all 20 hours during those weeks, and then even when 8 hours, they're working on a lot. So, but that's the sport. I mean, rowing, it's
they know what they
the more time you put into it, the fitter you get.
How long is the actual season as opposed to the off season?
We start racing mid to late March, and then whether it's the last weekend in May or first weekend in June, it's the NCAA championships. So it's not a long season
at all. Okay.
But I always say, like, for rowing, we don't have a lot of races. Sometimes like we train so much for just a handful of races. 2 reasons for that. Rowing coaches, we often think like it's all about the training. The races get in the way of the training. Really? The races get in the way of the training. Sometimes the race, we'd rather train than race. But also, if we're like, we're a number 1 team for we won NCAAs, and if we're typically top 3, top 4 team in the country, and if we race a team that's not in the top 20, it's really not worth it. Because we'll race, and within 2 minutes we're ahead, and it's like, then we're done.
Yeah, I'd rather practice.
Whereas football, you can still get the reps in. Baseball, you can get the pitches in. You can there's so many more games. But for us, the games almost become not practice, but
What I'm hearing is we're so good. I would rather practice than compete against. Because there's nothing good out of this for me.
That's a great problem.
That is rare air. That is rare air.
You said it. He didn't say it.
I said it. You didn't. I said that. I said what Coach was thinking.
But it's kind of like it's a lot of the sports where it's a race rather than a game.
Yeah.
You know, like it's a race, so it's a different mindset going into it.
No, it is. It's because football is a sport you practice more than you play. So you have to become a really good practice player. Like you have to really focus on being an elite practice player, and it translates usually to the game. Coaches hate gamers because they're like, I can't depend on that guy.
They hate him.
They hate him because he didn't earn the trust in practice. So I kind of there's some football coaches who love practice.
We have exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
You know, plenty of kids like, I'm not good in practice, but put me in a race and I'm going to be really good. Like,
Exactly.
It's all the same stuff. So and for rowing, like we do it over and over in practice, so that when we go to the race day, we don't do anything differently.
Well, Coach, do you see a lot of growth in the sport? I mean, I was just thinking back to, I remember walking around during pandemic, walking my neighborhood and just seeing like the rowing machine boxes out there. Like obviously, I think that piece, but also with the Olympics, do you guys see a jump in eyeballs, et cetera, for what you do?
Yeah, there's a lot of times people are like, oh, I got turned on to rowing. I watched it in the Olympics, and that's how they got started. Yeah, for sure.
That's interesting.
And then with certainly part of the motivation in coming to Texas, we're going to, I was like, hey, we're going to help turn the state into a rowing state, and it's been good to see, like, from what I'm told, there has been more people rowing on Lady Bird Lake, and then the clubs up in Dallas and in Houston, that's a little bit more active.
So I'm just thinking about it, like from a recruiting pool standpoint, like how much of it is just like this, Jane Doe has been rowing since she was 6 years old versus Jane Doe used to play volleyball, and now,
great question. So maybe this is where I look at the camera.
There we go.
Rowing is a sport that you can get into later in life. There's plenty of kids that their senior year in high school, they started rowing and they took off, and there's even some kid, one of our best kids on our team, she was a really good track athlete in high school, came to one of our summer rowing camps, got turned on to rowing, really didn't row until she got to us. And now she's 3-time NCAA champion, and she's great. Oh, so Lainey Nitch, great job, love you. Even like someone coming to Madeline Cantu, her brother was on the baseball team. She got into Texas, got in touch with us, and really good family, really good athlete, and I think she can do well. So it's rowing. I always say it's a fitness sport with a skill element.
That's what I'm thinking about. I'm thinking of almost like, and I mean this in the right way, like what CrossFit was to the fitness world. It created a competitive athletic component, right? Yeah. And when I think about this, as I'm just thinking about peak power output and endurance, I'm like the barrier of entry is a little bit lower because I don't have to be Derrick Johnson to be good at this. Yeah. I can genuinely become more powerful and work on my endurance.
Got you.
Yeah, you can learn the skill and be really good within 2 years.
That's interesting.
Like within our team, there's some teams out there you can get good enough to be on like one of their top boats within a year. For us, 2-3 years you can learn the skill. As long as you've got the body type and the work ethic and you're willing to suffer, you can do well.
Willing to suffer part is probably key.
Willing to suffer now, though.
That's one of the biggest things. So there's a lot of times like, I could be really good. It's like, no, I don't want to. Like, yeah, because there's a lot of suffering involved. Yeah. It's hard.
I love that.
Coach, what is your coaching style? What is your coaching style? We've been around a bunch of coaches. Some are loud, some are not. Some are very direct, some are not. What was your athletes?
Yeah. What would they say?
I think we need to ask his athletes.
I'm easygoing. I'm fair. I'm just respectful all the time. I hope to think that I'd like to think that they would think that I'm hopefully smart, or that logical in how we do things, and fair. And I think try to make it focused, but at the same time fun. Yeah. But it's easy to make it fun. Like it's not just joking around, but like interesting and engaging. Gotcha. So so I'm always aware. I always try to be aware. Like what are they thinking? How are they feeling? And we're not going to back off. But like you're feeling miserable right now. Like okay, but now you need to know you can go even harder. So demanding when we need to be demanding, and understanding and empathetic when we need to be. So, I think that's part of coaching, like knowing when to step on the gas, when to back off,
What goes into like, because what I'm hearing is like culture building. So like what goes into building a winning culture like that, which you've obviously proven you can do in multiple different places?
Yeah, the culture, it's all, I'm sure every coach is like, yeah, it all comes down to culture,
Yeah.
you know? And I'd say with that, and I've talked about this at, different times, I think it comes down to three things. One, you have to have a vision of what you want it to be. And it's easy to say what you don't want it to be, but what you want it to be looking like in terms of the high fives and the fist bumps and just basic interactions from day to day. We put a lot of thought into just even when they walk into the boathouse in the morning and it's dark and it's cold at times, but we make sure the lights are on, light uplifting music is playing, so they come in, so they have a vision of what it should look like. Second thing, I always say this, the person who's most responsible for setting the tone, the vibe, the atmosphere is me. If I walk into the boathouse and if I'm like, like grumpy and demoralized, I'm like, guys, what's your problem? None of you seem to want to be here. Like, if I don't want to be there, they're not going to want to be there. So I need to model the behavior that I'm looking for. And then the final thing, it's not what you preach, it's what you tolerate. Ooh. It's really easy to say. Like,
hold on, Coach. Say that one more time. Say that one more.
This is from Jocko Willick.
That's good.
Yeah, it's not what you preach; it's what you tolerate.
It's a bar.
So it's because it's really is like I want this and this and this, but when the little things, I'm like, hey, like there's little things that we say, like I'm not going to tolerate this. So little because the plenty of times I'm talking to somebody like, hey. Look up, take off your sunglasses and look at me. Like just those little interactions. Or if I'm talking to the entire team, and if there's some kid with their hood on, I'm like, nope, hey, body language, like this matters. So those things. So so what I often say, like it's kind of like having a nice garden, like it's easy to plant the seeds and water it, but like you got to pick the weeds and daily you have to tend the garden, or like cleaning the house. Like you can't just clean the house once a month. You got to stay on top of it if you want to have a nice house.
I hope this is not offensive, Coach, but you sound like Pete Carroll. Not like actually sound like Pete Carroll, but just your philosophy.
Wait, the Pete Carroll from the Patriots or the Pete Carroll from
Pete Carroll,
USC? Or
winning champion. He's a Boston guy. We can't forget. He's a Boston guy. So we're talking about USC Pete Carroll, Seattle Seahawks championship in both college and pro. Well, just because I read an article, he was talking to Steve Kerr one day, and Steve Kerr said he went to study Pete Carroll, and Pete Carroll asked him, so how are you going to coach your team? And he started talking about all this, the X's and O's and the scheme and how different guys. He's like, no. Every day, what's going to be the vibe, man? What's the energy? How are you going to come into that facility every day? Because they're going to look at you, and then your behavior is going to determine their response a lot of the times. And I don't know if you have paid attention to Pete Carroll or not. But great minds think alike.
It's like Compete Wednesdays, whatever.
It tells of the culture, but I love what you said there, Coach. I think great championship coaches all have the kind of that same idea about and vision about culture. That's all.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's a great compliment. Thank you.
Coach, well, this is so fascinating. I think I'd get in trouble if we let you out of here without. Can you give us kind of a breakdown 101 of the sport, like just why people sit where, what you talked a little bit about what they're called, as well as like what the race heat looks like or how that works. Can you just kind of give us the for us ignorant folks?
Well, for the NCAA championships, there's three. The championship is determined by three different events: the first 8, second 8, and then the 4. Okay, the first 8 it's you accumulate points. The first 8 is worth the most points, and that's the most important. Okay. And there's 22 teams that are in the that get invited to the championship. We have heats and then semifinals and finals, very similar to swimming or track. And then figuring out within the boats, rowing. I always say like there's sort of two conversations going on within a race. There's a conversation that the person's having with themselves, and then there's the coxswain telling the conversation. So within each race or within the team, there's teams within the team. So the first 8, that's a team within itself, and then the second 8 becomes a team within itself, and the 4, and then the whole collective team becomes important.
Right.
I guess when I say like the team within itself, but selecting the teams within the first 8, that there's a lot that goes into that, in terms of who gets along with whom, in terms of who's rowing well, who should be in what position of the boat. There's a lot that goes into that, and there's a lot of there's always question marks in terms of, did we get it right?
Right.
And certainly in rowing selection, we can talk about that for a long time. There's always a lot of ambiguity in terms of, did we get the right people in the boat? And sometimes it's not just the 8 best rowers. The 8 best rowers don't always make the best 8.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Is there a strategy component to where, like, if you genuinely feel like I can win this first 8 with these 5, and if I put these 3 in this second 8, I got a better chance of winning that too? Or do you just say these 8 work together and they're good?
Great question. That exact situation happened at the NCAA Championships this year, where one of our last workouts here in the lake, the stroke of our 4, which is a third-party boat but important, she blew out her back or back spasm. On Monday morning, like, oh my goodness. Okay. So then it's like, she's getting better, figuring out but then it was like, should she actually, I was saying, it'd be reckless for her to get in the boat, start racing on Friday, the first time she's back in a boat since back spasm. So it was like, okay, so then it's like, well, she can't, so we need a stroke for that boat. So someone from the second date went to the 4 to stroke the 4 because that was going to make the 4 better.
Yeah.
Someone from the 4 came into the second 8, and then an alternate came into the 4. So that was, yes.
So there's it's like almost like chess. It's a moving pieces on the board as well.
Yeah.
Well, where does your best, is there a position where it's like that, that's the best person on the field?
Yeah.
It's like who?
Yes and no. So I'm gonna, the stroke,
that you can politically answer.
A lot of times people they want to be the stroke seat. The stroke is the one who everyone can see, but the stroke can't see anybody. If that makes sense. Okay. So the one facing the coxswain. So at the stroke seat, you need someone who is really smooth, has a good rhythm, that is super tough and super aggressive, and has a stroke that everyone can follow. Okay. So being the stroke, it's kind of like the quarterback or the point guard in a way that if the stroke doesn't go, no one goes. Okay. But sometimes, and this happened within our team this year, that's like, some people nope, Meta, this woman, that she was a really good stroke, even if she wasn't the strongest person, but she set a rhythm that allowed everyone else to flourish and take off.
Got it.
So, so when we have, the Big 12 Athlete of the Year, Anna Jensen, and she's one of the finalists for Athlete of the Year for rowing, sort of like the Heisman Trophy of rowing.
Yeah.
So that'll get announced tomorrow. And she recognized, no, for her to be at her best, she should row 6 seat just behind, the 2 seats behind the stroke seat, because that made her, got the best out of her, if that makes sense. So she didn't have to worry about stroking and setting the rhythms. But Anna could the rhythm is set, I can just go.
Yeah.
So there are some prestige seats, but sometimes when you give up your ego, okay, what's going to be best for the team?
Do you mix and match a lot at practice in the mornings? It's it'd be oh dang, those two together. That's
for sure.
Okay,
for sure. And then it's hey, but it's really good when everyone in the boat can row all different seats. That's always good when that makes it easier.
Versatility.
Yeah. We say about being we talk about being an adjustable wrench that you can sit in any seat, and then let's just figure out what's going to work the best.
Reminds me of I ran track for a long time. I'm just thinking,
yes.
Even if you're winning throughout the year, coach is going to play with this relay team. I want to see what it looks like when he's handing the baton to him. Yeah. Just trying to figure out, is there a way to get this even slightly better?
Right. And then with us, and then it even came down to this year where we changed the lineup a little bit, but we decided to put one of the persons in 7 seat between Meta at stroke and Anna in 6, Laney, the one who I said learned to row with us. Right. And part of that was she was really good, did a really good job in terms of the skill set required for 7 seat, but she was really good at calming everyone else around her down. And her being in 7 seat, being closer to the stern rather than the bow, allowed her to be more of the hype and speak up, which was really important. So sometimes it's just the team culture aspect of it all too.
Yeah.
Hey coach, have you coached any Olympians?
There's been, I have coached people that have gone on to the Olympics, and I was a part of the 2012 Olympic staff.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
No big deal.
How
many Big 12 championships?
There's been a few Olympians there's been a few Olympians, and so there, Kate Nifton, Austin native.
Nice.
Love you, Kate. So she's going to be in the Paris Olympics, and along with Daisy Mazio-Manson, who are both part of our the first crew that won NCAAs back in 2021.
That's
Congratulations to them, first of all. So do you think like right now, like someone comes in and after a couple of practices, you're like, that person's gonna be an Olympian?
Yeah, but I'm wrong about that a lot. Because I feel like I'm an optimist. I'm like, oh, you can see the potential.
Yeah.
But then, like, you never know. Like, they might have the physicality.
Suffer.
Yeah, but but you can't really see the heart until you've been doing it for a while, and that's what really matters.
Absolutely.
Man, Coach, this was incredible. Thank you so much. I love episodes like this where we actually learn a lot.
Yeah.
And this was fascinating. We'd love to have you back sometime, talk more. So
sure, anytime.
Thank you so much.
Good
for
luck
coming
tomorrow.
in.
Yeah, Athlete of the Year.
Yeah. We'll see that.
Hopefully, we'll know by the time it comes out. So hopefully she got it.
So she's deserving. She's great. So Anna Jensen, love you. Gonna miss you.
We're cheering for you. We're pulling for you.
Thanks, Coach.
Welcome.
Welcome.